Today we're going to work on Math 1, Unit 3, Lesson 3, which is graphing linear inequalities. We did do a lesson on this last semester near the end of our time together. And if you want to review that video lesson, it would be Unit 7, Lesson 1. So let's just jump right in. Now, instead of always having straight, solid lines, sometimes they'll be dotted and sometimes they'll be solid. And then we're also going to need to be shading. Now, the last time that we had inequalities, our shading was left and right because all we had was an x variable. This time around, we're graphing linear inequalities, which means that there's now a y variable. So our shading will be up and down. All right, so let's jump right in with example number 1. I need to focus on the inequality. Okay, the inequality right here. I'm going to use blue to circle this because it looks like one of my blue inequalities up above. It is the less than or equal to. So when it's less than or equal to, the line underneath tells me it's a solid line, and the fact that it's facing left tells me I will shade down. All right? So 2 important things to look for. Now, in order to graph this line, first I still need to know what is my M and what is my B. I'm still going to be graphing this the same way. It's just the last step that'll be a little different. So my y-intercept is -3. So let me go down on my y-axis to -3, and there's that y-intercept. My slope is 3. Remember, for graphing purposes, we want to put that over 1. So I will go up 3 over 1, up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, and I'm going to go all the way across. You can also go down 3, left 1, down 3, and left 1. And I'm not going to connect those yet. I want to refer to my notes that I circled over here to the left-hand side. So I need a solid line. So here's the solid, and it will continue in both directions. And my shading needs to go down. So you can go to a point and go straight down from the points. And that's how you know that your shading is on the correct side. All right, so this is shading down below my line. And that's it. What I want you to do now is to pause the video, and you're going to complete example number 2 on your own. Again, this is completely review for all but maybe 1 or 2 of us, all right? So go ahead and give that a try. So let's take a look at our number 2. My slope and my y-intercept were easy to identify from the equation. It's 2/3 and b. So I plotted all of my points. Now my inequality says y is greater than. So there's no line underneath, which means I will not have a straight line on my graph. It's going to be a dotted line. And then greater than, I know it's greater because it faces to the right. If you even want to add that word here, these are greater than, these are less than inequalities, okay? So my shading from each point went up, okay? The direction I went from each ordered pair was up to do my shading. All right, let's go look at example 3. Example number 3 is exactly the same as the others, but I do have to do just a little bit of work first. So I have to always, in order to graph these, have the y by itself. So my little bit of work is to solve this for y equals. So I'm going to start out by subtracting x from both sides. So y is less than -x plus 3. And now I can identify my slope is -1/1, and my y-intercept is 3. And then let's see, there's no line underneath. So this is going to be a dotted line. and it is facing the left, which means it's less than. Whoops, I circled the wrong one. So I will be shading down. Okay, so dotted and down. So let's plot my y-intercept at +3 on the y-axis. My slope is down left. Nope. Forgive me. Down right, down right, down right, down right, all the way across my graph. Okay, and then I can also go the other direction, up and left, up and left. So I've graphed that real quick. Now I do need a dotted line, so I'm just going to make this dotted. However you want to make it dotted, you can. Draw the line. And now I'm going to do my shading down. So I always like to start at my y-intercept and just go down, pick any points. As long as you're going down with your shading, you're good to go. Some people like to color in the whole side once they know what it is. Okay. Why don't you pause this video and I want you to graph examples number 4, 5, and 6 on your own. You do the practice and then check back in with me. All right, so I have completed numbers 4, 5, and 6, and just pause the video again if you need to, just to kind of check and make sure that you are correctly identifying whether your line will be solid or dotted and whether the shading will be up or down. Now, in number 5, I think it may have been a typo, and that's all right. I did want to give you an example of what a problem would look like if, remember, if there's a negative in front of the y. If you have to multiply or divide by a negative, then you would need to rotate your inequality just like we did back with our single variable inequalities. So please don't forget about the golden rule, all right? So I do just want to add the steps down here at the bottom so that you've got them nice and summarized in one place. So our steps. So here are all the steps that I'd like for you to add to the bottom of your notes, just so that you've got them in one place. Pause the video if you need to, obviously. When you're ready, come on back, and then we're going to go do numbers 7 and 8. All right, so we're ready to do numbers 7 and 8. And I want you to notice that in example 7, we only have one variable. We have a y variable, and that is it. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to have a horizontal line. So I still want you to remember that acronym HOI, where H stands for horizontal, the O stands for zero slope, and the Y means it's going to cross the y-axis. All right. So let's go ahead and solve this to get the y by itself. So I'm going to multiply all my terms by 3. 2y is greater than or equal to -3. And then I'm going to divide by 2. So I have y is greater than or equal to -3/2. There is no x, so there is no slope, right? It's just a zero slope. So let's decide up or down. This is a greater than, so it will shade up, and there's a line under it, so it will be solid. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go on the y-axis to -3/2, which is the same as -1.5 right here. And now I am going to draw a solid horizontal line with a zero slope, and my shading needs to go up. So here is the shading, and that's all there is to that. Now let's look at an example where I only have an x variable. So remember, with you only have an x, we're going to use the acronym VUX, V-U-X, to help you remember that this will look like a vertical line, it will have an undefined slope, and it will only cross the y-axis. So Let's solve this to get the x by itself. So I'm going to need to multiply both sides by 3. And now what I have is x is greater than or equal to -3. So my greater than or equal to, so that tells me it will be up and it will be solid. Okay, and actually because there is a vertical line, I really can't do up in this situation. So for this one case, it will actually still be left or right. It's the only time that it'll be left or right is if you only have an x variable. So let's go to the x-axis on -3 right here. We're going to do our V stands for vertical line through the x-axis. And now the x is greater than -3. So think about on your x-axis, where do the numbers get bigger? And that is to the right. So we will shade this to the right, just like this. And that is what one of our vertical lines will look like. Great job. We're almost done. We've got some EOC example problems here to look at. So let's decide which of these graphs is the inequality of y is less than 5x minus 3. So when we're doing our EOC style questions, my goal is always to kind of eliminate possibilities. So this is a less than, which means to me that the shading will go down and there's no line under it, so it will be a dotted line. So let's look for things that are going down and are dotted. So this is going up and it's dotted, so it can't be A. This is going down, that's good. This is going up, so it can't be B. And this is going down and it's dotted. Perfect. So that would kind of be the first thing I try to focus on, is the dotted line and the shading up and down. The second thing that I would look for is my slope. My slope in this case is a positive slope. So C and D, which one has a positive slope? C is rising from left to right, so that's a positive slope. D is falling from left to right, so that slope is negative. So it cannot be D either. So I have my answer is C. Just eliminating answer choices is our process here. And then our very last example. Now our very last example is everything is 0. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to solve this to get the y by itself. That's what I want to do first. So let's subtract our 5x. Y is less than or equal to -5x. So let's begin by looking for, this would be a solid line that is going down. So those are the first two things I look for. And I don't think that I numbered this here up. So the second thing that I would look for is slope. Okay. And if I had to keep going, the third thing that I would look for is the y-intercept. Okay. So that's sort of my 1, 2, 3, how I narrow things down. So first I'm looking for solid lines. So A and B and D are solid. C is dotted. So that one is out. I'm looking now for lines that shade down. So A does not shade down. So it's out. So I'm down to a 50-50. Both B and D both shade down. Okay, so those two are still in the running. Second thing I look for is my slope. This slope is negative. So from left to right, B is going down. From left to right, D is also going down. So my slope didn't help me narrow any answer choices. So now let's look at our y-intercept. What is the y-intercept for this equation? What number is right there? It would be a +0. So B equals 0. So actually, I'm going to erase my markings here just so that we can see the y-intercepts better for B and D. So right here and right here, these are really close. If I look at B, I can see that the exact center 0, 0 is up there. And my line falls a little below that. In D, it lands exactly on the center. So right here, B does not equal 0. In this one, the B does equal 0. So it's not going to be B. It's got to be D. D is my final answer. All right. I feel like this lesson is going to be a super short one. And then we will get some more review in with this. I wanted to go back, let's see, to the beginning. So very, very quick lesson today. We will also have a quiz on lessons 1 and 2. So we have a little bit going on today. But your homework will be posted to Google Classroom. And as soon as you're done with the video and with the quiz, then you can get started on your practice assignment. Until next time.